Hello there, and welcome to Mysteries of Earth, the illusion of permanence. When we walk through the heart of a great city, it's easy to believe in permanence. Skyscrapers pierce the clouds, monuments tower above us, and streets pulse with energy. From the polished marble of government buildings to the endless sprawl of highways, humanity has built a world that feels unshakable. But pause for a moment. Step back in your mind's eye. Zoom out beyond the glass windows, the steel beams, and the glowing lights. How long do you think these things will last? 100 years? 1,000? Perhaps longer? In the short scale of human lives, our creations seem eternal. Yet in the vast timeline of Earth, they are but whispers. Think of the pyramids of Egypt. For those who first gazed at their colossal sides, they must have seemed indestructible, a symbol of forever. Yet today, they are scarred by time, battered by sand and storms, their smooth outer layers long stripped away. The glory that once filled them has faded, leaving only hollow echoes. Or take the Roman aqueducts still stretching across parts of Europe. Once, they carried water to cities bursting with life. Now, many stand as broken arches, disconnected, leading to nowhere. Their stones remain, but the civilization that built them dissolved long ago. And yet, these are considered humanity's immortal achievements. They endure, yes, but only as ruins. The truth is undeniable. Permanence, as we imagine it, does not exist. Why do we fall for the illusion of permanence? Perhaps it is because we measure time in years, decades, and centuries, while the Earth measures in eons, epochs, and ages. To us, a building that lasts 500 years feels eternal. To the planet, 500 years is not even a blink. Civilizations rise and fall in what, to Earth, is a fraction of a heartbeat. The Indus Valley, Mesopotamia, the Maya each built cities, temples, and monuments, convinced they were laying down legacies for all time. Yet today, they are dust. The rivers changed course. The forests reclaimed the land. Stone crumbled. All that felt eternal proved fragile. Look closer at the structures we build today. Steel towers gleam in the sun, but steel rusts. Concrete cracks, glass shatters, power grids hum with energy, but without constant care, they would collapse in days. Imagine a future where people no longer maintain them. Within a week, power stations go dark. Within a year, vegetation creeps over highways and vines twist up buildings. Within decades, forests push against the boundaries of once great cities. What we see as symbols of forever are already counting down to their decay. Permanence is not protection, it is illusion. Even nature teaches us this lesson. Mountains themselves, which appear eternal, crumble grain by grain. Rivers carve through solid rock, reshaping entire landscapes over millions of years. Coastlines shift, glaciers melt, forests migrate. Earth is a master of change. Nothing on its surface is truly fixed. So why should humanity's works be different? Our monuments, our skyscrapers, our networks, they may feel eternal because they loom so large in our lives. But in the scale of geological time, they are as fleeting as footprints in sand. This raises an unsettling thought. If everything we build fades, what does that mean for us? Are we too just temporary? It's tempting to imagine that humanity is the final chapter, that we are the pinnacle of Earth's story. But history whispers a warning. Nothing lasts forever. Not empires, not civilizations, not species, Dinosaurs once ruled the Earth for over 100 million years, far longer than humans have existed. They dominated every ecosystem, and yet they are gone. Their bones are reminders. Their shadows echo through the birds that survive them, but their reign ended. If creatures that powerful could vanish, what makes us believe we are immune? Still, this illusion persists. We see permanence where none exists, because to admit fragility is uncomfortable. We want to believe that our cities will endure, that our stories will outlast us, that something of us is eternal. But the earth reminds us otherwise. Every ruin tells the same story. What seems immovable is always moving. What feels eternal is always eroding, and what appears unbreakable is always breaking. Our belief in permanence is a reflection not of truth, but of hope. And yet, there is beauty in this fragility. If nothing is permanent, then everything we experience is part of a grand, ever-shifting story. Our civilizations, our monuments, even our species, they are chapters, not conclusions. Each rise and fall is not an ending, but a transformation, a handoff from one age to the next. The ruins of the past gave us lessons. The fragility of today will shape tomorrow. And when our monuments eventually crumble, they too will leave traces for something or someone else to uncover. Perhaps the real permanence is not in what we build, but in the earth itself, in its endless cycles of creation and destruction, in its resilience. We are not carving permanence into stone. We are writing temporary notes into an infinite book. So when we gaze at our skyscrapers, our bridges, our glowing cities, we should remember, permanence is not guaranteed. It is not real. It is an illusion that comforts us, but one that Earth will eventually erase. And that realization leads us to a bigger, more haunting question. If permanence is impossible, what happens when the balance of dominance begins to crack after humanity? What would the world look like without us? It's a haunting thought, one that lingers in the back of the mind. We walk through crowded streets, hear the constant hum of machines, and see lights flicker across the horizon at night. And it feels as if this noise, this motion, this human presence is eternal. But if tomorrow we vanished, the world would not stop. It would simply change. And in that silence, Earth would begin to write a new chapter. The first days would still carry our shadow. Cities would remain. Engines would still. Machines would hum until their fuel ran out. Streetlights would flicker one last time before going dark. Elevators would freeze mid-floor. Cars would rust in place. Airplanes would remain grounded, their wings spread like relics of a forgotten age. Pets and livestock, suddenly unmoored from their caretakers, would wander streets and fields in confusion. Some would adapt, finding ways to live without us. Others would fade quickly. For a brief moment, the world would appear frozen, a stage abandoned in the middle of a play. But already, the shift would begin. Nature has always waited at the edges of our world. Cracks in sidewalks would widen as roots push upward. Seeds carried by wind and birds would find new homes in places once swept clean. Vines would climb towers of glass and steel. Within years, green would begin to soften the sharp edges of our cities. Forests would return where farmland once stretched for miles. Meadows would grow in abandoned suburbs. Rivers, no longer forced into channels of concrete, would begin to meander again, carving their ancient paths. Dams would eventually collapse, releasing water to reshape valleys. The earth is patient. It does not need us to heal. It only needs time. Animals, too, would reclaim what we once took. Wolves would prowl again in European forests, no longer held back by man expansion. Bears would roam further, crossing abandoned roads now covered in moss. Herds of deer, elk, and bison would spread without fences. Birds would nest in crumbling towers, owls in darkened attics, bats in subway tunnels. In Africa and Asia, elephants might wander through villages swallowed by grass, no longer hearing the gunshots of poachers. In the oceans, whales would migrate freely, their songs traveling unbroken by engines and sonar. Fish populations would rebound without nets dragging the seabed. Coral reefs, if given centuries to rest, might slowly rebuild themselves, even as seas continue to warm and rise. Our absence would be their opportunity. Imagine walking through this world 100 years after humanity. Skyscrapers stand, but windows are shattered, vines spilling through open floors, roots crack concrete, rust streaks metal beams. The hum of electricity is gone, replaced by the whisper of wind through hollow buildings. Highways, once rivers of cars, are covered in grass, trees sprouting through fissures. Bridges crumble into rivers, railways vanish beneath creeping ivy. The silence is not empty, it is alive. Birdsong fills the skies, insects hum in the grass. The world is not mourning us. It is moving forward, reshaping itself into new forms. Over longer spans of time, the traces of humanity would shrink even further. In 1,000 years, most of our buildings would collapse into rubble, buried under soil and vegetation. Forests would grow dense where cities once sprawled. Only the most durable monuments, massive stone structures, mountain carvings, or perhaps even fragments of underground tunnels, would endure. In 10,000 years, glaciers, rivers, and shifting landscapes would erase many of the marks we once thought permanent. The written word would crumble. The internet, our great web of knowledge, would be gone without a trace. Plastics strangely might remain, fossilized into the rock layers of the future, a strange artificial signature of our presence. Earth remembers, but only in fragments. And what of us? Would anything remain that whispers of our existence? Perhaps a satellite drifting silently in orbit, a rusting relic circling the planet. Perhaps a few monuments buried in sediment, discovered by whatever species inherits the Earth. Or perhaps only a thin layer in the geological record, marked by carbon, radiation, and plastics, our unintentional signature etched into stone. To the Earth, that would be enough. It does not need our stories, our songs, or our monuments. It only carries the evidence of our passing, as it has done for every species before us. Some may find this vision bleak, a story of silence and erasure. But looked at another way, it is not about endings. It is about transformation. Because while our noise, our structures, and our dominance may fade, life itself will continue. It always has. After the dinosaurs, mammals rose. After extinctions, ecosystems rebuilt. After ice ages, forests spread again. If humanity disappears, the Earth does not stop. It adapts, it reshapes, it moves forward into new rhythms. Our absence would not be the end of the story. It would be the beginning of another. And perhaps that is the most humbling truth of all, that the Earth does not belong to us. It never did. We are a phase, a moment, a chapter written in its vast book. When that chapter closes, the story continues, filled with forests, rivers, oceans, and creatures that barely remember we were here. The silence after us is not emptiness. It is renewal. It is the sound of the earth breathing again, carrying on as it always has. So when we look at our cities and monuments, when we marvel at our machines and networks, we should remember they are not forever. And when we imagine a world without us, we should not see only loss. We should see the resilience of life, the patience of the earth, and the reminder that nothing we build is permanent. Because after humanity, the earth will still turn. The forests will grow, the seas will rise and fall, and life will continue to write new chapters in the story we once thought was ours alone. But that raises a deeper, more unsettling question. If life continues after us, could something else rise to take our place? The return of minds. What if intelligence is not a singular event? What if it is not bound to humanity at all, but simply one draft in Earth's endless experiment? We often speak as though our rise was inevitable, as though the arc of evolution always pointed towards cities, machines, and thought. But step back, and you'll see. Intelligence is not destiny. It is improvisation. A chance convergence of biology, environment, and time. And when chance has played its hand once, who's to say it won't play again? For billions of years, life has never stopped inventing. It has taken the same raw ingredients, carbon, water, sunlight, and reshaped them into coral reefs, forests, insects, dinosaurs, birds, and finally, us. Each new form was not planned. It was discovered, tested, refined. So what happens when we're gone? The earth does not rest. Evolution does not retire. It keeps experimenting, pushing forward, reshaping life in ways we cannot predict. In the silence after humanity, new possibilities begin to stir. We imagine intelligence as something uniquely human, speech, tools, art, technology. But even today, intelligence is more varied than we admit. Crows craft tools with precision. Dolphins call each other by name. Octopuses solve puzzles, slipping through mazes with ease. Trees exchange nutrients and warnings through vast underground networks of fungi. If this is what we can see in the present, what might unfold in the future, when the stage is clear for new players? Perhaps birds, already heirs to the dinosaurs, continue to grow in complexity. Imagine a lineage of ravens developing not only cleverness, but culture, language, and memory. Picture vast flocks migrating across continents, carrying stories in their calls, weaving knowledge into flight. Or perhaps intelligence blooms in the oceans, where whales already sing in haunting symphonies. If given time, could ear songs become histories? Could their migrations become maps? Could their communication deepen into something we would one day recognize as civilization, but carried not in stone, but in song? But here's the deeper truth. The next mind may not look anything like ours. It may not have hands for tools. It may not have words for language. It may not even measure time the way we do. What if the next intelligence is rooted, not roaming? Imagine forests that think slowly, across centuries, passing memory from root to root, tree to tree, through the silent breath of fungal threads beneath the soil. To us, it might look like stillness, but beneath that stillness, decisions are made, knowledge is stored, wisdom grows. Or picture intelligence in the seas, carried in coral. A reef that processes information across billions of polyps, reacting, adapting, remembering. Not a mind in a single head, but a collective consciousness that stretches for miles. Would we even notice it? Or would we dismiss it, as we already dismiss the strange intelligence all around us? That is the humbling question. The real mystery is not whether intelligence will return. It is how alien it might be when it does. Because evolution does not repeat itself. It does not make photocopies. It drafts new answers every time. We may be one solution to the puzzle of thought, but we are not the final one. Somewhere, in some form, thought will rise again. And when it does, it may be something we cannot even recognize as thought. To them, our kind of mind might seem primitive, limited. They may not understand why we tied sound to symbols, or why we built fragile cities instead of embedding our knowledge in the living world. They may look at our fossils and wonder, what were these beings? Did they truly think? And if they did, was it anything like the thoughts we know? This raises another possibility. Perhaps intelligence has already returned, quietly, invisibly, right beside us. Perhaps whales already carry histories too long for us to hear. Perhaps elephants tell stories in frequencies too low for us to register. Perhaps forests already hum with memory, but on a timescale too slow for our restless eyes. Maybe the world is already full of other kinds of minds, but our bias blinds us to them. If that's true, then the return of intelligence is not something we must wait for. It is already here, in forms so different we cannot yet read them. But let's imagine, far into the future, when the ruins of our species are buried and new forms of life rise. Could another intelligence stand where we once stood? Could it wonder, create, build, or dream? The answer is almost certainly yes, but not in ways we expect. Intelligence is not about recreating humans. It is about the flexibility of thought, the diversity of awareness. Whether it emerges from feathers, fins, roots, or something entirely unknown, it will be a continuation of Earth's long tradition, invention through life. And when that moment comes, it will not be the return of us. It will be the arrival of something new, something shaped by environments we will never see, bodies we cannot imagine, senses beyond our comprehension. The question is not if, the question is how. So, when humanity fades, thought itself will not vanish. It will drift, reform, and rise again in new shapes. Earth is not done experimenting. But this opens a haunting possibility. If new intelligences inherit the planet, what will they find of us? What fragments of our story will remain for them to uncover? Other kinds of thinking. When we imagine intelligence, we imagine minds like our own, eyes that see, ears that hear, hands that shape, voices that speak. But what if this is only a fraction of what thought can be? What if the true diversity of consciousness is far beyond our comprehension? Consider the oceans. Vast, dark, and deep, they cover 70% of our planet. Yet most of their complexity remains hidden from us. Life thrives in pressure and shadow, in lightless caverns and abyssal plains. Could intelligence arise here, shaped not by sight or speech, but by currents, chemical signals, and vibrations traveling for miles? A mind attuned to the pulse of tides, to the slow rhythm of deep water circulation, would experience time not in seconds or minutes, but in centuries and millennia. To such a being, we might seem frantic, impatient, ephemeral. And then there is the darkness beneath the soil, in networks of roots and fungi. Forests communicate through these underground threads, exchanging nutrients, warnings, and memory. Here is a form of thinking that is not centered in a brain at all, but distributed across thousands, millions of points, an intelligence that moves in silence, in the slow growth of leaves, the shifting of roots, the hidden dance of symbiosis. How would a consciousness like this perceive the world? Would it even recognize the passage of time as we do? Or would a year be just a breath, a decade a flicker? Even on land, the rules we assume for thought are not universal. Bats navigate by echoes we cannot hear. Certain birds memorize entire landscapes. Some insects exhibit collective decision-making so intricate that the colony itself seems like a single mind. Evolution has already shown us that thinking can be embedded in networks, in motion, in song, in the chemical and tactile language of life itself. Yet we remain narrow. We measure intelligence by what we understand: speech, art, tool-making, computation. We measure it by ourselves. This is not malicious. It is practical. We have to understand the world in order to survive. But our practicality blinds us to possibility. Just because we cannot imagine a mind does not mean it cannot exist. Look at the night sky. Stars move across billions of years. Galaxies collide, merge, and fade. Scale yourself down to the life of a human, and it feels small, fleeting. Now imagine a mind shaped to perceive that scale, a consciousness that experiences time not as a series of hours or years, but as the slow movement of planets, the shifting of continents, the subtle precession of the Earth's axis. To such a being, we would be instantaneous blips, our civilizations a brief flicker on a cosmic timer. And yet, for that mind, thinking might be as natural as breathing is for us. Perhaps even more alien forms of thought are already among us, hiding in plain sight. Whales and dolphins communicate in complex ways, with dialects that last generations. Bees communicate location, weather, and risk through dance. Trees warn each other of disease, predators, and drought. Could these be early drafts of forms of consciousness we are only beginning to glimpse? We may be too crude, too impatient, or too small to recognize them fully. And so, the future of intelligence need not be an echo of us. It may not stand on two legs, type on keyboards, or speak in words. It may drift silently through the oceans, extend along branches, migrate across skies, or inhabit forms that do not exist yet. It may perceive sound as color, time as shape, space as emotion. The only certainty is difference. This raises a humbling reflection. Our minds are not the measure. The way we think, the way we categorize, the way we value, is just one version of possibility. The next wave of intelligence could challenge everything we take for granted. What we call thought may be a shadow of the rich variety waiting to emerge. And if intelligence arises again, it may seem alien in ways we cannot fully comprehend. Yet, it will be part of the same experiment that produced us. And perhaps that is the gift of perspective. By imagining other kinds of thinking, we learn the limits of our own. By realizing that awareness need not mirror ours, we step closer to humility. We begin to see the world not as a stage set for human drama, but as a vast laboratory where consciousness takes many forms, some fleeting, some enduring, all connected by life itself. What might a mind rooted in a forest care about? Perhaps it values balance over progress, patience over speed. What might a mind born in the deep ocean treasure? Perhaps cycles over outcomes, currents over individual choices. These are not lesser intelligences. They are intelligences attuned to realities we can barely perceive. And they remind us that the human perspective, while remarkable, is only a lens among countless others. So when we look to the future, we must expand our imagination. We must accept that the world may be filled with minds we cannot recognize, communicating in ways we cannot translate, thinking in scales we cannot measure. In doing so, we prepare ourselves not just to witness, but to respect the forms of awareness that will follow. And perhaps there is a quiet hope in this vision. If life continues experimenting, if minds keep returning, then consciousness is not rare. It is resilient. Thought will find a way, even when humanity is gone. Even in shapes we cannot foresee, even in forms we cannot understand, intelligence will persist. Our task is not to predict it, nor to control it, nor even to fully comprehend it. Our task is to notice the possibility, to let ourselves imagine what may come, and to hold that mystery with wonder. Because the universe does not require human-like minds to explore itself. But the universe does delight in life that notices, that reflects, that becomes aware. And perhaps that is why consciousness, ours, theirs, or others yet to come, continues to emerge again and again, because awareness in any form is a way of participating in the ongoing story of the earth. So when we think about other kinds of thinking, we are really asking, what does intelligence look like when it is freed from our assumptions? How flexible can thought be? And what might exist in the shadows, the depths and the roots, waiting for its turn to unfold? As we step back from the familiar, the human, and the comfortable, we start to glimpse the broader truth. Minds may come in countless forms, each reflecting the peculiarities of their environment, their body, their senses. Each one an experiment, a thread in the intricate web of life. Some will be fleeting, some enduring. Some may even wonder about us, as we now wonder about the creatures of the past. And in that realization lies the bridge to the next reflection. How these new minds, however different, might perceive the traces we leave behind. If forests reclaim cities and oceans erase borders, what will the inheritors of intelligence see? What stories will remain for them to interpret? And what truths about us will endure in ways we never intended? Hidden minds among us. When we speak of intelligence, our thoughts often leap to ourselves: language, culture, machines, art. But the Earth is older than humanity by billions of years, and life has been experimenting with awareness far longer than we have walked the planet. What if we have been blind to minds that already exist, hidden in plain sight? Consider the whales. These titans of the deep traverse oceans as highways, their songs stretching for hundreds of miles, patterns that shift over decades. Scientists have only begun to decode them, noting dialects, regional variations, and long-term cultural memory. What stories might these whales be carrying? Stories of journeys across oceans, of storms weathered, of survival passed down through generations. Could entire epics, entire histories be encoded in rhythms and frequencies we cannot yet perceive? And beneath the surface, the oceans themselves hum with intelligence we barely sense. Currents, tides, chemical exchanges, they shape and guide life, creating patterns of survival and adaptation. In the deep, creatures navigate by pressure, vibrations, bioluminescence, and sonar. Their reality is one of constant motion, cycles within cycles, where survival and understanding emerge together. Are these minds thinking in ways we can imagine, or are they thinking in ways we cannot yet conceive? Move to the forests. Walk among trees, and you enter a network older and more intricate than any human city. Roots interconnect through fungal mycelium, a hidden communication web sometimes called the wood wide web. Nutrients, chemical signals, warnings of drought or pest, all flow in this silent language. Trees may not have brains, but awareness is not necessarily confined to neurons. Is this a form of collective intelligence, slow and patient, reading and responding to the world in a dialogue that unfolds over seasons, decades? Yet despite these wonders, Human perception is limited. We value what we can measure, categorize, or manipulate. What cannot be captured in words, charts, or equations is often ignored. But the world is not structured around our understanding. Minds may already be walking, swimming, or growing alongside us, yet we fail to recognize them because they do not look, act, or think as we do. Perhaps the future of intelligence does not depend on inventing entirely new forms of mind. Perhaps it depends on noticing, respecting, and allowing existing awareness to flourish. Imagine a world where the forests, the oceans, and the skies continue to host minds of their own, each unfolding in ways we cannot direct but can witness. If we can step back, even slightly, and give space for these hidden intelligences, we participate in a story far older and far larger than our own. There is a quiet, humbling lesson here. Intelligence is not ours to monopolize. It is not a prize to claim, but a phenomenon to observe, to honor, and perhaps to safeguard. The whale that sings beneath the waves may be telling its history to a future generation we will never meet. The trees whispering through roots and fungi may be negotiating survival in ways that shape ecosystems long after humans are gone. Life itself carries patterns of awareness that endure, adapt, and transform, independent of our recognition. And what does this suggest about our own species? We often imagine ourselves as architects of future minds, as if the world waits for human design. But in truth, the Earth has always been designing consciousness on its own terms. We may be a brief interlude in that process, but we are not the authors of its limits. If intelligence reappears after us, it may do so in forms we cannot yet imagine. Intelligence that reads the ocean currents as we read text, that experiences time as slowly as a tree grows. By considering hidden minds among us, we learn another truth. Awareness is not uniform. It is adaptable, resilient, diverse. The forms we notice are not the only forms that matter. The voices we hear are not the only stories being told. Life has always harbored consciousness beyond the human frame, and it will continue to do so. The future does not need to invent new minds. It only needs to allow them to unfold. And in that unfolding, perhaps we will see echoes of ourselves in the most unexpected places. A whale song may carry patterns reminiscent of our own music. A forest network may mirror the logic of our societies, or an ant colony may solve problems with an elegance we can only admire. These are reminders that intelligence is not a single path or form. It is a process, a possibility, an experiment played out endlessly across Earth's vast and patient canvas. Ultimately, what this teaches us is humility, but also wonder. Life's capacity for awareness is far broader than we assume. We are not alone in thinking, perceiving, or responding to the world, even if most of those forms remain hidden from us. And perhaps this is the most extraordinary lesson. Consciousness is not rare because it belongs to us. It is rare because in all its forms, it manages to notice, to endure, to adapt, and sometimes to create. And yet, for all this hidden intelligence, there remains a question. What traces will remain for those minds to interpret? If cities crumble, plastics fragment, and radio waves fade, what stories of humanity will reach the next intelligences? Will they see our successes, our failures, our curiosity? Will they decode our presence? Or will we simply become another layer in the sediment of time? This question brings us forward to the next reflection, the legacy we leave in stone, in ocean currents, in the air, and in the memory of life itself. Hidden minds among stone, ocean, and sky. When we think of memory, we often imagine books, photographs, or recordings, things humans leave behind. But Earth remembers differently. Its memory is not written in ink or pixels, but in stone, in ocean currents, in the slow, deliberate motions of the sky. Mountains rise and crumble, oceans circulate, stars drift across the heavens. Their record is far older, far deeper, and far more patient than anything we can create. Look at a cliff face or canyon wall. Each stratum of rock is a page in a history book millions of years long. Sedimentary layers preserve the echoes of seas that rose and fell, forests that grew and vanished, deserts that shifted their sands across vast expanses. Volcanoes leave ash that settles like a timestamp. Glaciers carve valleys that speak of ice ages, and meteor impacts punctuate the story with sudden drama. Stone does not hurry. It records without judgment, without preference, without haste. Oceans, too, carry memory in motion. Currents circulate heat, nutrients, and life across the globe, following rhythms that unfold over centuries. The thermohaline circulation, sometimes called the global conveyor belt, takes roughly 1,000 years to complete a single cycle. Water sinks, rises, carries oxygen and minerals, sustains life in the deepest depths, and reshapes coastlines in subtle but persistent ways. Coral reefs grow and die, seagrass meadows expand and retreat, fisheries flourish and collapse, all according to patterns that are invisible to our daily perception, but deeply real to the life they sustain. Even the sky has its own rhythm, moving on scales far beyond human observation. The Earth wobbles on its axis in a cycle that takes about 26,000 years. Its tilt shifts over tens of thousands of years, driving ice ages and warm periods. Orbits fluctuate ever so slightly, altering how sunlight reaches distant regions. And yet, within this fleetingness, there is clarity. To see human history against geological and cosmic rhythms is not to diminish it. It is to place it in context. We are participants in a story billions of years long, one that stretches back before the first oceans formed and will continue long after our species is gone. Mountains we climb are not inert backdrops. They are archives of time, rising over tens of millions of years only to erode over tens of millions more. Oceans are not mere highways or resources. They are vast, circulating systems, repositories of life and memory. Stars are not distant ornaments. They are cosmic storytellers, forging the elements that become planets, life, and eventually consciousness itself. This perspective transforms how we view our own impact. Climate change, species extinctions, deforestation, pollution, they are enormous when measured against our lifespans. Yet in geological terms, they become another layer in the record, another chapter added to Earth's story, another pulse in its ongoing rhythm. Even our errors contribute to the planet's memory. Carbon released into the atmosphere today may linger for thousands of years, reshaping climate long after we are gone. Plastic fragments may persist in sediment layers, strange markers for distant intelligences to discover. Nothing is permanent, yet nothing is erased entirely. Change is the only constant. There is something humbling in this realization. Mountains crumble, oceans shift, stars die, and humanity's brief experiment of thought, culture, and life occupies only a fleeting moment. But there is also something liberating. If permanence is not required for meaning, then we are free to participate without fear of inadequacy. Our awareness allows us to witness cycles that span millennia, to measure rhythms that exceed any individual lifetime, to glimpse patterns that connect stone, ocean, and sky are reminders that change is the only true constant. The ancient seas, the drifting continents, the cosmic dance of stars, all persist without concern for human ambition. To accept this is not to diminish ourselves. It is to embrace the beauty of impermanence. We are moments within a vast continuum, brief but aware, fragile but capable of reflection. Our actions, though fleeting, interact with forces that have shaped the planet for billions of years. Awareness allows us to witness these forces and, perhaps, to act in ways that honor the continuity of life and memory. And as we consider Earth's deep memory, a question arises. If human history is so brief, if our permanence is illusory, what traces will endure? What will remain for future minds, whether human, animal, or entirely alien, to decipher? Will they see our cities as fossils in stone, our plastics as markers of curiosity and error, our songs as echoes trapped in airwaves long faded? The Earth will remember, not in our terms, but in its own indifferent and majestic rhythm. This reflection carries us forward toward a deeper understanding of time and impermanence. Stone, ocean, and sky are more than physical entities. They are archives, record keepers, and storytellers. They remind us that life is ephemeral, yet embedded within continuity. They teach us that permanence is a mirage and that motion, change, and adaptation are the only true constants. And within this understanding, we find a bridge between our fleeting lives and the vastness that surrounds us. As the wind shapes cliffs and waves carve shores, as planets spin and stars flare and fade, we recognize our place, small, aware, and connected. Humanity may be a brief flicker, but our awareness allows us to glimpse the deep patterns of existence, to trace rhythms that predate us, and to imagine futures beyond our own. And from this perspective of stone, ocean, and sky, we are ready to explore the next chapter. The fleeting, luminous sparks of life and intelligence, and how impermanence itself shapes meaning in ways both personal and cosmic. The cosmic stage. Look up on a clear night and imagine the scale. Pinpoints of light stretch across the sky, so numerous they seem infinite. Yet each star, each galaxy, is not a witness to our lives. They burn, collide, and fade indifferent to our existence. The universe does not wait. It does not pause. It does not notice. Earth itself is a mere speck, orbiting an ordinary star in a galaxy among billions. The Milky Way, our home, is one of perhaps trillions of galaxies strewn across the cosmos. Distances are so vast that even light, the fastest thing in the universe, takes thousands or millions of years to cross them. Against such scales, human history, our civilizations, our inventions, our stories, are almost invisible, a fleeting flicker on a tiny stage. Yet paradoxically, it is through us that the universe has become aware of itself. On this small, fragile planet, matter has arranged into beings capable of asking questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What is the story of the stars we see? We turn telescopes to the sky, chart cosmic radiation, measure the expansion of space itself. In that act, the cosmos has, for the first time, looked back. It has become conscious of its own existence, not because it desires to, but because we exist. And awareness is rare. Planets form, stars ignite, galaxies collide, but only on Earth has matter begun to reflect. Only here has life evolved to ponder the universe, to imagine its own impermanence within it. And perhaps, somewhere else, perhaps not, intelligence is emerging, asking the same questions in ways we cannot yet imagine. Black holes consume light and matter. Galaxies merge in slow, violent dances. Stars explode in brilliant supernova. These processes are vast, impersonal, unfolding across millions or billions of years. We do not influence them. We cannot sway them. We can only observe. And in observing, we carve meaning for ourselves, a delicate kind of significance in an indifferent universe. To stand beneath the night sky is both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it shows how small and temporary we are. Empowering because in our fleeting lives we carry the capacity to understand vastness, to trace cosmic patterns, to recognize cycles far older and larger than ourselves. A city, a civilization, a species, brief as they are, can still witness the slow, majestic processes of the cosmos. That awareness is extraordinary, even if fleeting. History once framed humans as the center of the universe. Our ancestors imagined the heavens as revolving around the earth, as a stage built for us. We have since learned otherwise. We orbit an unremarkable star, in an unremarkable spiral arm, among billions of similar stars. Yet this revelation does not diminish us. It reframes our significance. We are not the climax of a story written by the cosmos, but the story's ability to notice itself, a reflective spark in an otherwise indifferent vastness. We are, in a sense, cosmic storytellers. Our telescopes, satellites, and probes extend our awareness beyond the planet. Instruments trace radiation from the early universe, map distant galaxies, and even leave artifacts traveling toward unknown stars. The golden records on Voyager carry human culture into interstellar space, fragments of our music, our languages, our knowledge. Perhaps no one will ever find them, and yet in sending them, we claim a brief footprint in the cosmic memory. And yet, for all our awareness, we are painfully temporal. Human existence, from the first Homo sapiens to our modern civilizations, is barely a moment compared to the lifespan of stars or the slow growth of galaxies. The Earth has turned for billions of years, witnessed cycles of ice ages and extinction events, oceans rising and falling, continents drifting slowly across its surface. The universe has been here far longer than we have, and it will continue long after we are gone. In this context, our efforts, our monuments, our cities, our art may seem insignificant. But significance is not measured solely by permanence or scale. It is measured by the capacity to observe, to understand, to feel awe and curiosity. Our ability to grasp the immensity around us, to recognize the impermanence of our own lives in contrast to the cosmic expanse, is a rare and profound phenomenon. The universe may be indifferent, but our awareness imbues it with meaning, if only for the brief span of our existence. Consider the paradox. While the universe does not care, we care. And in caring, we participate in its story. Stars ignite, burn, and die. Galaxies collide and reshape themselves. Black holes swallow light without hesitation. And yet, through our perception, these events are transformed from mere phenomena into narrative, into wonder, into reflection. We have not changed the cosmos, but we have witnessed it, and that witnessing is a kind of cosmic resonance. Our understanding of the universe also changes our understanding of ourselves. We see impermanence writ large. Stars will die, galaxies will disperse. Even the universe itself will continue to expand. Nothing lasts forever, not on Earth, not in the sky, not across the cosmos. And yet, within these finite moments, we find significance. The brevity of human existence does not diminish our experience. It amplifies it. The momentary spark of life, of consciousness, of reflection, shines precisely because it cannot endure forever. In that light, the question of importance shifts. Importance is not granted by the universe. It is created. We decide what matters in the fleeting moments we have. Connection, curiosity, creativity, exploration, these become the markers of significance. While the stars burn and galaxies collide, we trace meaning through observation, understanding, and imagination. Through these acts, we leave echoes of ourselves, fragments of awareness that persist in memory and story, if not in matter. And so, the cosmic stage is set, indifferent, immense, and unyielding. Yet, through our brief lives, the universe has, in some small way, become conscious. We stand as a testament to the possibility that matter can reflect, that life can perceive, that the cosmos can, for an instant, see itself. It is a rare and beautiful phenomenon, fleeting yet profound. From here, our gaze turns inward again, toward the impermanence of life and civilization on Earth itself. We have seen the vastness of the universe, the indifference of stars, and the longevity of galaxies. And now we ask, how do we find meaning in the brief flicker of human experience, in the rise and fall of civilizations, in the passing of life itself? That is the journey of the next chapter, where we examine impermanence not as loss, but as the very foundation of significance, impermanence and renewal. Endings are everywhere. They shape the world around us in ways we often fail to notice. A leaf detaches from its branch in autumn, drifting to the ground. A river shifts its course after a flood. A civilization rises and falls, leaving behind stones and stories, echoes of lives once lived. In every case, endings are not failures. They are continuations. They are the hidden currents that allow new life, new forms, and new stories to emerge. Consider the dinosaurs. For over 100 million years, they dominated Earth. Mighty, diverse, seemingly eternal. And yet, in a single geological heartbeat, they vanished. Did life end with them? No. Their disappearance opened ecological niches, allowing mammals to rise, eventually giving rise to us. Endings, it seems, are the engines of possibility. They clear space, rearrange the stage, and invite transformation. Without impermanence, there would be no innovation, no evolution, no renewal. Impermanence is not limited to biology. Stars are born, shine brilliantly for millions or billions of years, and then collapse, scattering their elements into space. These remnants, iron, carbon, oxygen, and every element essential for life, become the building blocks of planets, trees, oceans, and humans. Even in their deaths, stars are architects of the future. The universe itself demonstrates that impermanence is not a loss, but a kind of creativity, a necessary rhythm in the story of existence. On Earth, impermanence shapes landscapes as well. Mountains rise through tectonic collision, only to erode over eons. Rivers carve valleys, then shift course, leaving behind fertile plains or barren deserts. Glaciers advance and retreat. Ice sheets build and vanish, and in their wake, they sculpt continents. The planet's surface is a record of endless change, reminding us that nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent. And yet, in time, his fluidity, life finds stability. Forests regrow after fires. Corals recolonize reefs. Species adapt, evolve, and thrive in the spaces that change creates. Human civilizations, too, follow this pattern. Cities crumble, libraries burn, empires collapse. Yet, from these endings, new societies emerge. The fall of Rome did not erase the achievements of the ancient world. It seeded innovation that centuries later would give rise to the Renaissance. The destruction of forests, or the extinction of species, though tragic, also sets the stage for new ecosystems to develop. Endings are woven into the fabric of continuity. They are the turning of pages in a story that has no final chapter. Impermanence challenges us because our perception of time is narrow. We measure days, months, and years, but the Earth measures millennia, and the cosmos measures eons. A century may feel long, yet it is a blink compared to the life cycle of a mountain or a star. Recognizing this shifts perspective. What seems catastrophic in our short-term view A volcano erupting, a civilization falling, a species vanishing, is often part of a larger rhythm, a pattern of renewal that sustains life and the planet itself. At the personal level, impermanence gives life urgency and depth. Each moment, each relationship, each creation is temporary, and in that temporariness lies significance. A sunset matters because it fades. A conversation matters because it ends. A life matters because it is finite. Permanence, while comforting in theory, would remove the tension, the beauty, the weight that gives experiences their meaning. Our awareness of endings shapes how we value existence, how we make choices, and how we create legacies, even if they, too, are impermanent. Impermanence also reframes our understanding of responsibility. We cannot prevent change, and we cannot make anything truly eternal. But we can influence the direction of transformation. How we treat the planet, how we steward ecosystems, how we care for each other, all these actions ripple forward, shaping the continuations that follow us. Even small choices carry significance, not because they last forever, but because they become part of the chain of renewal, the unfolding story of life. And yet, impermanence is often met with fear. We cling to monuments, traditions, and habits, hoping to hold back the tide. We fear endings because they confront our sense of control and permanence. But the natural world offers a different lesson. Endings are inevitable, yes, but they are also essential. They are neither mistakes nor punishments. They are the creative pulse behind the transformation of everything around us. In this light, impermanence is not the enemy of meaning. It is its foundation. Without it, there would be no contrast, no narrative, no possibility for growth. Life's fragility is what makes it precious. Civilizations, like humans themselves, gain significance not because they endure forever, but because their existence is brief, a flash of consciousness in a vast, ongoing process. What we create, observe, and experience matters precisely because it cannot last. Nature offers countless examples of this principle. Fire sweeps through a forest, devastating and destructive. Yet, in its aftermath, new plants sprout, biodiversity increases, and the ecosystem rejuvenates. Glacial meltwater reshapes valleys, forming lakes and fertile plains. Meteor strikes may wipe out species, but they also open evolutionary paths previously unimaginable. Change, even violent change, carries the potential for renewal. The universe, it seems, thrives on impermanence. Our awareness of impermanence also allows reflection. We see the rise and fall of life and civilizations and realize that endings do not erase. They transform. They connect. They prepare the ground for what comes next. This is true not only for stars and species, but for ideas, cultures, and stories. Knowledge passed down, even through collapse and loss, becomes the seed for future generations to reinterpret, rediscover, and expand. Continuity is woven through endings. Transformation is the heartbeat of existence. Impermanence challenges our illusions of control and permanence, but it also offers freedom. To accept that nothing lasts forever is to release the pressure of permanence, to find beauty in the fleeting, and to recognize that meaning is not inherited from eternity, but created in the moment. Every act of awareness, every act of care, every act of creation is part of this ongoing dance of endings and beginnings. And so the story of Earth, of life, and of humanity is not a tale of fixed endpoints. It is a story of movement, flux, and transformation. Species rise and fall, civilizations flourish and crumble, stars ignite and fade. And yet, in every ending, there is the promise of something new. Impermanence is not a void, it is the fertile ground from which renewal springs. As we reflect on this, we begin to see that our own role in the story is not to resist endings, but to participate in the flow. To understand that our species, like all that came before, is temporary, yet our awareness allows us to notice, to learn, and to leave traces in stone, story, and memory. We are part of the continuity, a brief spark in an unending rhythm, witnessing transformation even as we ourselves change. From here, we move naturally into a deeper reflection on humanity's place in the larger story of life. If impermanence defines all existence, then what does it mean for a species capable of self-awareness, capable of creating, observing, and leaving marks? The next chapter will explore how humans fit into the branching web of life, not as the pinnacle, but as a bridge, connecting past to future, endings to beginnings, awareness to renewal. Humanity as a bridge. For much of our history, humans have looked at the natural world and ourselves and assumed we occupy its peak. Cities, monuments, machines, and art. These are the evidence we point to. Proof of progress. Proof of achievement. We imagine a ladder of life, climbing ever upward, with us at the summit. But what if the ladder is an illusion? What if, instead of a pinnacle, we are something entirely different? A bridge does not exist to be permanent. Its value is not in towering over the land, nor in claiming territory. Its purpose is connection. It links one place to another, one era to the next, one possibility to its unfolding. Viewed in this way, humanity's story is less about being the final chapter of life on Earth, and more about being a passage, a temporary structure spanning vast stretches of time. We carry the history of life in our cells, our minds, and our cultures. We inherit the outcomes of eons of evolution, and in turn, we shape the conditions for what comes after. Our role is connective, not ultimate. Consider the species that came before us. Photosynthetic microbes transformed the atmosphere, creating the oxygen that would allow complex life to flourish. Plants colonized the land, forming ecosystems that gave rise to animals. Small mammals survived the cataclysm that ended the dinosaurs, opening pathways that would eventually allow humans to exist. Each of these species was, in its own way, a bridge. Their existence mattered not because they would endure forever, but because they enabled the next stages of life to emerge. And here we are, perhaps serving a similar role, though the forms we influence in the future may be beyond our imagination. Being a bridge changes the way we understand significance. If we are not the pinnacle, does it diminish our achievements? Not at all. Bridges are essential. Without them, connections are impossible. They allow life to flow across gaps, to spread into new territories, to discover possibilities that would otherwise remain unreachable. Our intelligence, our creativity, our capacity to alter the planet, and even our mistakes, all of these may ripple forward, shaping the conditions for future forms of life and consciousness. Even if we are eventually gone, our influence remains embedded in the earth, in the climate we have affected, in the species we have nurtured or endangered, in the knowledge we have recorded. Humility is the first gift of seeing ourselves as a bridge. The arrogance of assuming we are the pinnacle dissolves. We recognize that evolution is not a ladder, climbing toward a predetermined summit. It is a branching, unfolding web, endlessly exploring forms, experimenting, discarding, and adapting. What seems like progress in one era may be irrelevant in the next. Trilobites ruled the oceans for hundreds of millions of years. Sharks have survived multiple mass extinctions, and yet neither occupies a final position. We exist in the same vast, experimental web. Yet humility does not mean insignificance. In fact, recognizing our role as a bridge can deepen our sense of meaning. Meaning does not require permanence. It does not require being the final word. Meaning arises from participation in the flow of life, the movement, the connections, the chains of cause and effect that stretch across time. Every action we take is part of this chain. Every species we protect, every ecosystem we restore, every culture and story we preserve adds to the possibilities that will flourish long after we are gone. Bridges matter because they create passage. Their presence allows life to continue, even if temporarily. This perspective also reframes responsibility. If we are a bridge, then our choices are not only about immediate survival or comfort, they are about shaping the passageway. The technologies we develop, the landscapes we alter, the knowledge we preserve, all of it has consequences for the future. Our bridges can be sturdy, guiding life forward, or fragile, prone to collapse. We may never see the full consequences of our actions, just as builders of bridges long ago could not predict the people who would eventually cross them. But that uncertainty does not absolve us. It emphasizes the care required in our role. History itself offers glimpses of this bridge-like function. Civilizations rise and fall, each leaving traces that influence the next. The collapse of Rome gave rise to new cultural and technological configurations. Ancient texts, once forgotten, were rediscovered and shaped the Renaissance. Even failures have value because they transmit lessons, warnings, and new possibilities. In the same way, our species can be seen as a bridge, temporary, fleeting, yet carrying forward the accumulated knowledge, experience, and life of Earth into whatever comes next. Recognizing ourselves as a bridge also dissolves the fear of endings. If the pinnacle were the goal, extinction would be a catastrophe. But as a passage, endings are simply part of the work we perform. Our disappearance would not erase our contributions. The river flows through the bridge, and when the bridge fades, the river continues. The cycle of life carries on, sometimes in forms we cannot yet imagine, sometimes in ways that surprise even the most distant observers of history. Being a bridge, however, is not passive. It demands awareness. A bridge that collapses too soon leaves gaps, traps, and loss. A bridge that is built with care allows safe passage. Our awareness of impermanence, our capacity to reflect, to create, to care, is the very tool that strengthens the passage we provide. Intelligence itself, fleeting though it may be, is one of the ways we connect past to future. Our thoughts, our inventions, our art, our science, they are the planks and beams of this bridge. And just as bridges span time, they also span perspective. We carry within us the deep memory of evolution, the accumulated legacy of countless species, ecosystems, and environmental shifts. At the same time, we look forward, imagining futures that have never existed. This dual vision, holding the past and the future simultaneously, is unique. We are aware enough to see the flow of life as a whole, to imagine our role in it, and to act with intention within a process far larger than ourselves. Yet perhaps the most profound insight comes from recognizing that bridges are temporary by nature. They are not meant to last forever. Their beauty, Their purpose and their significance lie in their function, not their permanence. Life, too, is a network of bridges, species and ecosystems rising, falling, and connecting in ways that allow complexity to flourish. In this view, humans are remarkable, not because we are final, not because we dominate, but because we are aware participants in this endless chain of connection. And from this awareness emerges a subtle but powerful perspective on legacy. To leave a mark is not to conquer permanence, it is to strengthen passage. The songs we sing, the knowledge we pass, the earth we cultivate, the relationships we nurture, these are the bridges we build. They may crumble, fade, or transform, but in the process, they extend life and possibility beyond ourselves. So, as we consider our place in Earth's story, the picture shifts. We are extraordinary, yes, but extraordinary not because we are the pinnacle, but because we serve as a link. Not because we will endure forever, but because we facilitate continuity. Not because our presence is permanent, but because our awareness and participation add to the unfolding narrative of life. We are bridges, carrying the weight of history and the promise of futures that are yet to come. And in recognizing this, we can let go of the pressure to be final, to dominate, or to control. We can instead focus on connection, on passage, on participation. Being a bridge does not diminish us. It places us firmly within the story, showing that our value lies in what we carry across, not in how long we endure. From here, the journey turns toward reflection. What does it mean to witness, to notice, and to participate in the flow of life, knowing that we are temporary? The next chapter will explore the culmination of these ideas, how our awareness, creativity, and presence transform impermanence and connectivity into beauty and meaning, even if only for a fleeting moment. Our place in the infinite story. If we take a moment to step back and look at the Earth from its own perspective, we see ourselves as barely a whisper in its vast narrative. Mountains rise and fall over millions of years. Oceans carve continents, then shift again. Forests bloom, decay, and regrow. In this immense timeline, humanity is a thin, fragile layer, no thicker than a leaf pressed between pages in the book of the planet. Our cities, our monuments, even our civilizations, are brief annotations in a story that stretches billions of years into the past and billions into the future. And yet, despite our brevity, we are remarkable. We are the layer that notices, the layer that wonders, the layer capable of reflecting on the vast cycles that contain us. In the endless procession of geological and cosmic time, awareness is rare. Stars burn and fade without comment. Rivers carve canyons without consciousness. Yet we pause to observe, to question, to imagine. In this, there is a kind of beauty that does not demand permanence. It exists simply because it is present. Presence is fleeting, and perhaps that is what makes it meaningful. One day, if life continues long after we are gone, our layer will be buried beneath sediments, erased from sight by the slow rhythm of oceans and tectonics. Future beings, whatever forms intelligence may take, may one day uncover fragments of our existence. They may see a city reduced to foundations, a forest replanted over ruins, a fossilized record of our species in a layer of stone. To them, we will be the ancients, mysterious and distant. Just as we gaze upon the fossilized trilobites and ammonites, wondering what kind of creatures they were and what thoughts they carried, so too will they study us, perhaps puzzled by the brief spark of awareness that once walked the earth. This perspective humbles us. It reminds us that presence also reframes how we think about meaning. Meaning is often measured in achievement, influence, or permanence. But in the scope of deep time, these metrics collapse. Civilizations rise and fall, species flourish and vanish, mountains grow and erode, stars ignite and die. Yet meaning persists, not in duration, but in awareness. The simple fact that we notice, that we care, that we attempt to understand, is itself an act of significance. We are the universe, briefly self-aware. Our presence is a lens through which the cosmos examines itself, even if only for a fleeting instant. And so, impermanence becomes a gift rather than a loss. We do not exist forever, and that finitude gives our moments intensity. Every sunset, every conversation, every discovery carries weight precisely because it will not last. The brevity of our layer in Earth's book does not diminish its importance. It magnifies it. Life's fleeting chapters are luminous because they are temporary. Awareness, curiosity, and reflection are not diminished by time. They are made more precious by it. This understanding also shapes how we see the future. If human presence is temporary, it does not follow that life itself is fragile. New forms of intelligence may emerge, new species may thrive, and the story will continue in ways we cannot predict. Perhaps future minds will be utterly unlike our own, shaped by environments, bodies, and perceptions that are foreign to us. They may discover our layer and marvel at its brief spark of self-reflection. They may learn from it, be inspired by it, or simply record it as one chapter among countless others. What matters is not the permanence of our layer, but the way it contributes to the ongoing flow of life. Even as individuals, this perspective is liberating. We may not leave permanent monuments or eternal creations, but our presence, our awareness, our attention. And perhaps this is the final lesson of our journey, that the beauty of life is not measured in duration, but in presence. We are fleeting, yes. Our layer in Earth's book is thin. One day we will be ancients to someone or something else. Yet in the act of existing, of noticing, of reflecting, we have achieved something extraordinary. We are not eternal, but we are luminous. Not permanent, but meaningful. Not the final chapter, but a thread woven into the infinite tapestry of Earth and life. So as we close this exploration, take a moment to reflect on your own presence. The mountains, the oceans, the stars, they continue in their vast rhythms. Yet here you are, aware, witnessing, participating. This is your mark, your presence, your contribution to the story that has been unfolding for billions of years and will continue for billions more. In this awareness, there is beauty, and in this beauty, there is meaning. Humanity may be temporary. Our civilizations may crumble. Our monuments may vanish. But our presence, the conscious, reflective, imaginative presence that allows us to wonder at the cosmos, the earth, and ourselves, endures, if only in the fleeting moments when we notice. And in that, we find something timeless, not permanence, but the luminous gift of presence. We are the newest layer, yes, but we are not insignificant. We are fleeting, yes, but we are extraordinary. And perhaps that is all we need to know. Presence is enough. Awareness is enough. The act of noticing, of reflecting, of participating is the rarest kind of beauty, and we already have it.